Is 10 a.m., which means it's time to track the tropics. I'm WESH 2 meteorologist Eric Burris.
And I'm WJCL 22 Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Nelson in Savannah.
All right, so Jeremy, tracking the tropics, and we have things to track today, huh?
Yeah, it's sort of newly formed or newly not really named, but we have an invest out there. So we've had this area of interest, and now we can put the low pressure symbol on this. It's way out in the Atlantic, so no threat to U.S. coastal waters here.
That's the good news, but it is something that may develop, may eventually become a named thing. Hurricane Center has been tracking this and is giving it a 30% chance of development over the next 2 days' time, a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days' time. But Jeremy, whether it becomes tropical, subtropical, extratropical, royal tropical, I don't know, whatever it is, though, the good news is it is not a threat to the United States. And that's, I think, the main point.
Yeah, it'll stay away from the East Coast, but this is sort of a good indicator because last time we talked, we were talking all about Saharan dust. So we said if anything's going to develop, it kind of has to stay away from that dusty, dry air. Well, here we go into the North Atlantic. It's out of that dusty, dry corridor. So if anything's going to develop, maybe the next week or so, it needs to be in this area.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So computer models, now that it's an invest, have been running. Here's the very first look at them, kind of taking it on a scraggly approach off generally toward the east, and eventually a storm system of some kind, not expected to get too strong, works out to the Azores. In the next 6 hours, Jeremy will be able to get intensity model data. Not that it's a big deal, but, we could see something develop out here, and if that's the next thing to be named, it would be named Dawn.
Yep. So that would be the fourth name, but actually the fifth storm of the season if you count the one back in January.
Yep.
So, yeah, we've had a bit of a lull here. We don't expect a lot of activity late June into July. And as we highlighted last time, and it's still out there, that tan color you see, that's the Saharan dust that blows off from desert areas in Africa, and it cruises across that main development region of the Atlantic, helps to suppress tropical development. It's not rare. We see this generally one, two, maybe three times during hurricane seasons, and here we go with it out there right now. So pretty quiet in that main area. That's why we're watching that invest.
One thing that's interesting, though, is that you kind of find these little waves wanting to bubble up. Like that's a tropical wave that is not anything organized, but you see how it's in a little ribbon without Saharan dust and it's bubbling up convection. It's about to go face first back into that Saharan dust, and those dust particles dry out the atmosphere so it'll collapse it down. But to me, Jeremy, what's interesting is, we keep watching these waves coming out, and if they find an area without the dust, they pulse up in convection, and then as soon as they run in, they die out. So to me, once we slow down this aerosol injection, once we slow down this wave of Saharan dust, to me, I would be interested to see if that main development region doesn't try to wake back up.
Yeah, and maybe we end up seeing that once we actually get into the peak of hurricane season. Remember, we're still just barely over a month into the kind of the official season. So once we get into late August, September, first part of October, that area could be very busy. So we'll see how the dust plays out, and also how maybe that El Nino factor that we continue to bring up. It's I definitely say it's a bit of a wild card.
Yeah, well, there's so many different pieces here, right? So we know at this point, here we are, it's July 11th, right? And very clearly you could tell on the graphic here, most of the tropical activity doesn't really start to get cooking until mid-August through September, even into October. So we're in that quieter stretch. But the water temperatures at this point, Jeremy, for the Atlantic Basin as a whole, are in record territory, and there's a real deep dive we need to go down in a few seconds with that, right? But you've got boiling hot water temperatures, but at the moment, the Saharan dust is over top. So you can't just look at one ingredient and say, it's going to be a chaotic hurricane season, right? Right now, the Saharan dust is there. But when the Saharan dust starts to fade, does El Nino kick up the wind shear a little bit? There's so many of these wild cards, and I always struggle, 22 years in the weather game, like, as much as we know, and as much as we think we know, the reality is there's so much more that we just don't understand yet.
Yeah, and it's, as you mentioned, there's just so many ingredients. And one thing that I don't try to get too wrapped into is maybe the difference of 1 or 2 degrees in water temperatures.
Yeah.
Because in the summer, you know what? The ocean, when you talk about the Gulf, Caribbean, that main development region of the Atlantic, 1 or 2 degrees there, yeah, it could make a difference, but you still have so much moisture with water temperatures in the 80s. So whether it's 88 degrees, 86,
Right.
somewhere in there, every summer it's warm. But obviously this year there's a little more fuel with it, but
Right.
will the dust impact things? Will upper level winds prevent some of these storms from getting going? That's why it's sort of this perfect balance.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't see maybe 50 or so tropical systems every year, even though you have that warm water there.
Yeah, right. Well, and then the other thing too, and when we look at some of these water temperatures more specifically, we'll be able to really illustrate it. But even during the day, if you've got a backyard swimming pool and you kind of like, I've got little kids and they're so dainty about the water temperatures, but the morning the water temperature's 3 degrees cooler, and through the day those water temperatures rise. The ocean, while it may be a bit more subtle, there is still adjustments in water temperature from time of day. So there's so many of those elements there that go into it. And I guess with that point, Jeremy, why don't we just chat about something interesting that's happening across a little closer to my neck of the woods, around South Florida.
Yeah, almost a natural hot tub down there, right?
It's kind of wicked. So water temperatures, and I actually need to adjust this graphic. I built it yesterday, and it says 5 to 6 degrees above average, but the water temperatures in reality off the coast of South Florida are actually running 5 to 7 degrees above average. Now that's not 1 or 2. I mean, that is a noticeable increase in water temperatures there.
Right, and bring up are they buoys out there or just sensors that measure water temperatures? And this is about, you said about 5 feet below the surface. And during the afternoon, it's peaking around maybe 95, 96 degrees or so.
Yeah, so this is one weather sensor here. And you can kind of see, the graph is kind of small, so let me do my best to bring it as big as I can there. But, excuse me, you can see on the left, the top of the graph is 97 degrees. The bottom of the graph is 87 degrees. So you're looking over time. Watch these water temperatures at JKYF1, this buoy, how the afternoon peaked a couple of days ago at 95. Then the afternoon peaked 2 days ago at about 95.8. And then yesterday peaked at just under 97 degrees. Now, a couple of things here. This is actual empirical data, and it's 5 feet down. Now, is it shallower water, so that would make it more susceptible to temperature changes? Sure, but it's not just one buoy either. Like, here's another one. This is DKKF1, showing a peak of just under 97 degrees, and BOBF1, Jeremy, just over 96 degrees.
Yeah, and even I've been talking about how near shore southeast coastline, our water temperatures here have been lagging a little bit due to that Memorial Day weekend storm. Well, now what we're looking at for the southeast coast is currently the water temperatures are starting to warm up. We have a lot of mid to upper 80s for us, not to 90 degrees yet, but as we move forward in time, maybe we'll hit the upper 80s. I think the near shore by Savannah is about 84, 85 degrees.
Yep.
Typically that may peak around 88 or 89.
I'm getting there. Give me 2 seconds. So, yeah. So there you go. 86, 85. Yeah. Near shore is like 83. So it's definitely toasty there, but it's like 80 degrees is the magic number, Jeremy. Anything over 80 degrees,
right,
and you can sustain a tropical system.
Yeah, so our water temperatures, again, have started to warm up here. Not as toasty as down across the Keys in South Florida. We've had a few more bouts of sort of weather to mix things up. And one way to cool the ocean is obviously seasonally, but also from almost the bottom up. You get these upwellings to send some of the cooler air up. And if we would start to get some tropical systems closer to home or something to churn the water up, it would mix things up a bit and cool things down. But even that, you give it another week, 10 days, that warmer water starts to sort of fill back in.
Right. And somebody on my morning Facebook Live had mentioned that that's kind of the normal run of things, that nature depends on either a tropical system or a non-tropical storm system to upwell, to pull up that cooler water, to kind of level things out. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about water temperatures on average. Now, I actually had to add the color pink to this color table, Jeremy, because it just wasn't, it didn't go above 90. When would water temperatures go above 90? But as a whole, you're in the lower 90s through the Keys. And obviously, the coral reef system down there, that isn't good. It's not good for it. So at some point, there's going to be something, hopefully weak, to churn it up just a little bit and kind of pull up some of the cooler waters, you'd hope.
Yeah, and probably not, though, down in that area for maybe at least the next 7 days. Yeah. But I guess that could lead us into some of the ensemble data, your favorite. So yeah. I'll let you get into that. We touched on the Invest in the North Atlantic, yep. But let's sort of start to look at what else may be out there.
Yeah, so this is the American GFS model, all right? So this is raw data, and what you're looking at here is normalized anomaly pressures. So in other words, the big orange color you see on the top, that's anomalously high pressure, whereas in the Central Atlantic, we're starting to watch anomalously low pressure right there. You see that purple shade showing up? That is the GFS model trying to develop Invest 94. That purple shade, what is that? That's 1,002 millibars. So the GFS is showing that developing. The European, I would switch over and show the European is also showing it developing. That's 1,004, 1,003. So, you're not talking about anything too strong, but Jeremy, both models are showing development. So I think that's one of the big reasons that the Hurricane Center has upped the development percentages. We're getting some model agreement there.
Yeah, and we may see a tropical depression, subtropical depression. They've already been mentioning that. So, right. Again, if it's going to get named, it'd probably be like Thursday, Friday, maybe early Saturday. After right. that, it starts to go a little bit farther to the north. The dusty, dry air south of that may start to erode a little bit, but it's probably going to take at least, it looked like, maybe another week.
Oh, for sure. And I put this up just to kind of show. So to give you your situational awareness, there's Invest 94 now. Okay, so to give you an idea, that dot right there, whether you could see it or not, that's Bermuda. Obviously, there's the eastern seaboard. So it is far enough north. All of that Saharan air is down here to the south. So it's not encountering the Saharan air layer. And just as Jeremy had mentioned earlier, anything that would try to have developed would stay north of it. And frankly, notice through this weekend, another globule of Saharan air crossing the Atlantic, and then afterward, looking into July 20th, 21st, 22nd, another wave coming off the coast of Africa. So for now, it seems like the main development region would be relatively shut off. Relatively. I mean, if you get something developing between these waves of Saharan dust, you could have something try to form, which, mind you, some of the models are showing. Let me just go, give me 2 seconds to dial this up. I want to go toward the end of the American GFS run here, Jeremy, because I saw this morning, okay? So take a look toward the bottom of the screen, and you see that little dot in the bottom right corner? So that's the 22nd of July. So that's a Saturday morning. And that's a prime example of the GFS at least finding something in a sea of drier air and a sea of higher pressure that may be trying to move forward. So the models are kind of saying, well, we may sniff something out. But generally speaking, out that direction, you're talking about the Saharan dust kind of dominating things.
How does the, I know you have this data handy, the ensembles look for like the Euro?
Yeah, all right, so 2 seconds. Click that.
Because the Euro, at least the ensembles, and remember, did it go to 50 or 100 now?
You're talking the long range ensembles.
Yeah.
That one that I don't have dialed up.
Talk
about it, and I'll try and get that worked up.
Yeah, so we've been kind of monitoring that. It did have a few of those runs were trying to get something maybe headed towards whether it was Cuba, maybe into the Caribbean or somewhere in there. But remember, the ensemble runs the data several different times, a few different versions of it. And we try to kind of look to see if there's a consensus with a lot of these, or they show sort of a little path of some sort of tropical development. Obviously, it would have that thing there in the North Atlantic we've been highlighting, but also it was trying to maybe show a little something else.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's kind of the idea, and you've got kind of the main development region, but you also have like the eastern seaboard showing up, at least in the current version of that, Jeremy. So does that end up playing out? That's looking at the potential of a tropical system within the next, what is this, 504 to 672. So that's basically looking all the way through July.
Okay. Yeah. And I do think that late July into August, we get that dusty, dry air to settle down. We'll have to start watching some of those waves leaving Africa because some of the longer range models are starting to hint at maybe some sort of activity out in the Atlantic. Mm-hmm. I do look at one model that goes out like 768 hours, so you just obviously take that with a grain of salt. But it is starting to sort of uptick the activity late July into August, maybe in that main development region, or trying to run something across the Atlantic. So I think sort of a lull right now in that main area, things staying to the north of that, and then we'll have to watch late July.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Things are starting to heat up, like it or not. So this is getting more and more into timing where the models are showing stuff. There's not significant development, but this kind of pattern, Jeremy, would lend more toward those homegrown systems, at least at the moment, kind of systems that bubble up off the coastline, whether it be the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic coast, or in this case, the North Atlantic, away from all of that Saharan dust.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of dust right now in the Gulf of Mexico. We haven't really seen anything try to get going in there. We had Arlene earlier in the year. That part of the pattern may try to come back here once we get maybe another, I think it was like 10 days down the road or so. We'll have to see if there's any type of little system that may want to get going in the Gulf of Mexico. But at least in the short term, the Gulf looks pretty quiet, and also down into the Caribbean. So the good news is those systems are staying away from the warmest water in the basin right now.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here on this graphic, Jeremy, this is the European ensemble of tropical development in general. Okay, and so where we're watching for tropical development is in the North Atlantic, at least over the next couple of weeks. That's through the 21st of July, so the next week and a half or so. So this is kind of going in exactly what we had discussed. Lorenzo's asking, have you discussed about the wave near the Caribbean? And again, that's in a sea of dry air and Saharan dust. So at this point in time, most of the activity favored should be to the north of that. But Jeremy, going into our long-range discussion and our long-range forecast, we knew that this year was going to really want to favor fish storms. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, one thing that we really pointed out was if you took the Gulf, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic, we thought the bulk of the activity, obviously it's a bigger body of water, but we were really focused on maybe some of these systems in just the open water of the Atlantic, not threatening the Gulf Coast, Florida, or the East Coast of the U.S. There's really just a few defined parts of the pattern that we really have to watch out. Maybe that eastern part of the Gulf, parts of Florida, southeast or mid-Atlantic coastline. Those are coming up, but again, if we have this dusty, dry air, that's a limiting factor. So maybe we escape July, and then we would really have to probably start watching more like late August into the first kind of half of September.
Right, and that lines up with our hurricane season forecast, tracking all of those lows. And so if this version of the recycle doesn't develop anything, at least it gives us another opportunity to track where the systems may try to peak and where they try to move, Jeremy, to give us one last look. Because, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. Looking back at, we were in the midst of tracking Hurricane Ian down here in Central Florida. We're getting hit with a hurricane. And one of my WESH 2 viewers sent me a tweet that I had put out months earlier, and it was the recycle that ended up being Ian. And it was a tweet basically showing it and saying the next version of this we're really going to have to watch out. And it's just like, well, I'm in the middle of hurricane coverage. That was it. Right. But if it gives us one more look at things before it were to want to try and develop tropically and be an impactor, that gives us one opportunity to really search for things.
Yeah, and we'll look for any little clue coming up here over probably the next 2 to 2.5 weeks. And even if it's just, there was a cluster of thunderstorms off the southeast coast, there was a little area of low pressure because we just went through that part of the pattern that we turned kind of the East Coast or Carolina area. And I sent you some maps that, again, there was a low pressure area over eastern North Carolina. There was one offshore a little bit. So these lows were there. They were weak. You know what? When they come back the next cycle, it's something we will watch. They could be weak once again. But they are at least coming back sort of on cycle. So the timing of these that we've highlighted should still be pretty close, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll watch, we'll track that. Now, somebody's asking, Vanessa's talking about the Colorado State University forecast and was curious if there's been any discussion as to why they upped their forecast numbers. Jeremy.
Okay, so remember, we issue our forecast March the 1st. We went 14 to 18 named storms. We'll see how that plays out. I still think that's a pretty good number. I don't know. We really have to ramp up the hurricane activity. And again, we're so early in the season that you don't want to be like, oh, wow, there hasn't been a hurricane yet, so our number's too high. But we'll see how that plays out. But Colorado State, what was their first forecast? Was it 13 named storms?
It was, I think, 13, yeah.
Okay. So then they updated it to, I believe, 15, correct?
Yep.
And then they're on their third update to their forecast, which just came out in the last week. It's now up to 18 named storms.
Right. So they're discussing the abnormally hot sea surface temperatures, the record sea surface temperatures. They're discussing the later onset of El Nino. And, at the end of the day, we are all using different methodology in putting together our hurricane forecast. But Colorado State's kind of watching the trends, seeing how we're already sitting with an above average number of named storms. And so they've upped it to that. When we put our forecast out in March, Jeremy, March 1st, there was only the discussion of El Nino is going to kick in and it's going to make a kibosh of a season. There were 0 named storms that we were aware of because the Hurricane Center had not yet upped their number. So we kind of went out on a limb a little bit, and everybody else has kind of dialed into that thinking. I also think our numbers are good, but like you said, getting into the peak of hurricane season, we are going to need to start seeing some activity.
Right. I'm not cheering on any hurricanes. I know you're not as well. So you know what? If we end up with like 3 or 4 hurricanes and one major hurricane and it's below those numbers, fine. You know what? Great. Yeah. I do think, though, if we get a named storm this week, we also see sort of down the road, late July into August, an uptick in activity. There's definitely going to be some named storms. Now, hopefully they're just out, like you said, fish storms in the Atlantic, don't bother anyone. But I definitely think we're still going to be adding up the number of names this season. Then it's just a question of we get rid of the dusty, dry air. We have these warm water temperatures out there. Are we finally going to start to see maybe in peak season a little more explosion in activity in terms of some stronger systems?
Right. But here we are sitting today on the 11th of July. We've had 4 named storms. Through today, the average is 1.8. So we're already running above average. But again, we're not into that window where we really see much in the way of tropical development. In terms of named storm days, we've had 10.5 days with a named storm, double what is average. And the real metric that we use, Jeremy, the ACE score, we're sitting at 9. We're not quite double the 30-year average, but we're still well above. So we've got the basis through this stretch of an above average season. It's just a matter of where do we go from here.
Right. And I don't know how much ACE score will be adding up this week if we do see something named. Maybe it's named for like a couple days, something like that. Not much. Maybe we get that number. Maybe that'll end up being around 10 or so if we see something. And then we'll start watching late in July. I sent you something earlier today. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I believe it was a longer range computer model that was looking ahead to, I believe it was August, September, and October.
Yep, I'll get it put in. Give me a second. Keep talking.
Okay, and it did have sort of not, I don't know if I'd say ominous, but definitely piqued our interest of kind of where it was showing potential for tropical activity. And this is just, I believe it was like, Yeah, so I'll let you explain that a little bit there.
Right. So the overall idea is like the moisture around during this is August, September, October. Okay. So when you're looking at the moisture around on this product, the idea is look for where it's showing up. And what we end up having is some recurvatures in the open Atlantic. Right. And here, this is going to be a little sloppy, but I'm just going to enlarge this. All right. And again, look, we're not on TV. This is social media, so we can be a little rougher around the edges. Hold on. All right. So what we're looking at there, right? You've got the open Atlantic, and you see how it kind of forks up to the north a little bit. So that would lead us to believe that, we're talking about some recurvature storms. But if you look around the Caribbean, if you look around the Gulf, if you look around the eastern seaboard, what you end up seeing are those blues, those higher moisture marks around the Caribbean, around Florida, and kind of the Carolinas / the mid-Atlantic. So this does line up a bit with our long-range forecast. Now, I do see some blues around Mexico / South Texas. So that's something interesting of note. And even the Northeast into New England, that's also something interesting of note. But Jeremy, those were areas that we at least had said maybe not an above average opportunity for landfalling systems, but definitely an area of interest that we had discussed back in March.
Right. So it does, I would say, lines up with our hotspots for the U.S. coast pretty well. We had those Carolinas highlighted. We had parts of Florida highlighted. Look at where at least this model, and again, doesn't mean it's going to be right, but look where it has maybe the lowest chance or the lowest precip, and that's on the northern part of the Gulf Coast. So you get upper Texas coast, maybe towards Louisiana, Mississippi, that area.
Yeah.
It's showing very little precip or maybe below average. And that was an area that we did not have as part of our hotspots.
Oh, 100%. So there's the hotspots. This was issued March the 1st, months and months and months and months ago. But it's interesting, there being a subtle uptick in the Northeast and a subtle uptick around Texas because, Jeremy, in addition to our hotspots, we did say that there was other areas of interest. They may not be hotspots, but we did also show, interestingly enough, South Texas and kind of the Northeastern corridor as other areas of interest.
Yeah, that South Texas area. There were a couple things that were down in that southern Gulf area there, closer to Mexico. And then also, even just look at that January system we had. That was off from sort of that northeast coast a little ways.
Yeah.
We'll see how that tracks because that part of the pattern, again, would be coming back.
So interesting data, and that's what's so great. And start asking your questions, y'all, because we're getting to the point where we need to start answering some questions. But, there's a lot of long-range ensembling. There's a lot of great data. We're now starting to close out the quieter stretch of the hurricane season, Jeremy, and we're trying, I think, as a meteorological brain trust, right? Everybody's trying to get an idea of where is the stuff really going to fly? And the data at least is looking like our hotspots should be watching very closely, which would be your area and my area. Not directly our areas, but around our areas. So we have to watch things closely getting into that August, September timeframe when our recycles cycle once again.
Yeah, and some of these things that we've highlighted come back during the the absolute peak of the season, which is around about September 10th or so.
Yeah.
So we'll see kind of that late August window through the first half of September, potentially could be kind of busy. Which, I mean, a lot of people are like, well, it should be busy. It's the absolute peak of the season, but it definitely could be interesting.
Well, that's about the time that El Nino should be kicking up. So one could argue, well, sure, it's the peak of the season, but if we increase the wind shear in the basin, then that should subdue things a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out. Maybe there is activity, but maybe it does kind of cut down on the intensity, which would not be a bad thing.
Yeah. So Vanessa's asking, is the Saharan layer sticking around or will it start to fade soon? Good question.
Yeah, we talked about that. We think probably at least another 7 to 10 days that it's sort of across that main development region. So if there's going to be activity, maybe north of it, maybe there's a mini break in the dust and something tries to form on that southern tier.
Yeah, there's another wave, and then if you look beyond this, that's the 19th of July, the 20th of July. Around the 20th, there's another wave. So what ends up happening every year, it's June or July, you get these thrusts of dry air. But what ends up happening always, and it's like it puts this false sense of security in people's minds because you get such dry air coming off the Sahara, but then the Madden-Julian oscillation kicks around and you start thrusting that monsoonal flow off of Africa, and all of a sudden you're not throwing sand out, you're throwing tropical waves out, and then you start to open things up for business in a big way. And, I'd have to go back and look, Jeremy, to see when in late June exactly we started that wave train that was so odd, right? Because theoretically, 51 days after that, we should start to see another wave train, in theory, start back up again.
Yeah, so I think that would be maybe like 10/41, that first half of August. And
Okay.
you start to look kind of at some of these longer range models, and they are trying to hint at maybe a few lows coming off the west coast of Africa. Again, it's a long ways out, so we just kind of try to look at some of the trends, maybe not the specifics of location, intensity, stuff like that. And even with these longer range models, I feel like they have a really hard time with anything homegrown.
Yeah.
Look at how quickly something like Arlene just sort of popped up in there. So we're not discounting anything that could be sort of homegrown, close in to maybe Florida or the southeast coast the back half of this month, but just not any good indicators there this second.
Right. The homegrown systems are always difficult because they just kind of get, it's like the weather patterns are all moving and the models do a great job. But then when one gets stuck, that's when the models are like, oh, there's something. Oh, and then you get a quick little thing. And I think personally, a lot of people, Jeremy, have been asking me about those Florida pieces and the Carolina pieces of our long range cycling pattern. I think that once we get into late July and we get into those Florida timelines, if something tropical is to develop, it's going to be an old front that bubbles something up in the Gulf real quick or bubbles something up off of the East Coast.
Right.
And it's more of those homegrown type deals.
Yeah, it is definitely something we'll watch. If you don't have any other questions, maybe we'll take one more look at the invest and then we can wrap things up for today. But I think our discussions here moving forward will probably have a little more to track here as we get into late July and especially into August.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. So a couple of people asking about, is the Madden-Julian oscillation coming in phase soon? At the moment, it doesn't look like it is.
Right.
But that makes sense. We're not looking at really ramping up activity, I don't think, until probably late August into September.
Yeah, I think right now it favors the Eastern Pacific. We've
Yep.
seen a lot of activity there. And something that just kind of caught my eye and was that the GFS is trying to get a tropical system very close to Hawaii. I feel like every single year, models try to get a system close or hitting Hawaii. It is so sort of unusual to get anything to actually hit Hawaii. It's very difficult. You have such a small island chain, and tropical activity can get close to Hawaii, but it's usually pretty rare for a hit out there.
All right, so I'm trying to. I'm getting it. I'm 99% pulled up. Give me 2 seconds.
I think it was like 180 hour or 200 hour out in the Pacific. So we're not just talking Atlantic Basin here. I guess the GFS. I looked at that a little bit earlier. I think it was on the 60 run had something out there.
Yeah, so that right there.
There. Yep.
That's Wednesday the 19th.
The what?
That's Wednesday the 19th.
Okay.
And look at that, a 996 low on the north side.
But the one reason I bring this up is because obviously that the Pacific this past winter was crazy active.
Yeah.
I've been to Hawaii a couple different times, and I was out there in January, and we had perfect weather when we were there. But about a week or so later, I mean, it was just like crazy heavy rains out there.
Yeah.
And so it's always sort of interesting for the method we use to kind of look back at different parts of the pattern.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something out there, and definitely if the GFS would continue to show a low out there, then I'd kind of backtrack and start to investigate.
I was gonna say, have you looked back to see if it lines up?
I haven't, because obviously you and I could probably look at every little piece, different big systems around the globe and go back to the cycle and find it. So without causing complete brain drain here.
Yeah. We need to keep the battery reserves going.
Yeah. We kind of know what's ahead of us here, our busy time of year, and it's been nice to have a bit of a lull in the tropics right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's enjoy it, but let's know that it's going to be coming to an end. And with that, let's put this to an end because I've got to do the new newscast. And at some point, I know the executive producer is going to be like, "Hey, Burris, are you showing into work today?"
And my lawn will not mow itself.
There it is. All right. So with that, hey, thank you all for hanging out with us. We do this every Tuesday at 10 a.m. asterisk, as long as our schedules allow it. At some point, I'm going to have to chat with you to figure out, because I'm going on a cruise at the end of the month. So maybe you just do it solo, Jeremy.
Well, or maybe your cruise goes into one of those storms and you can give us some video. Hopefully not.
It's a Royal Caribbean, so I wonder, like, if Starlink is a thing, if I could could I do this from a cruise ship? My wife would kill me. I'm not doing it from a cruise ship.
Well, you know what you could do? You could see if they have any type of meteorologist on board that does the weather for them, and they could maybe be a guest.
It's Royal Caribbean. Their meteorologist just left the company.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well. At any rate, we'll figure that out. But we do this every day, every Tuesday at 10, more often as is needed. And remember, if you missed it, you can always check in. We are on all of the sources where you get your favorite podcasts. So don't forget, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon. So you can always check in and get the latest. And assuming not one of us on a cruise, we should be able to do this pretty regularly as needed, Jeremy.
All right. We're wrapping things up here. But again, thank you for everyone for joining us. I'm WJCL 22 Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Nelson in Savannah.
And I'm WESH 2 Meteorologist Eric Burris in sunny Central Florida. Have a great one. We'll see you next week, y'all.
See ya.